Hey everybody, it's time for Dinner with Debbie. It's Tuesday, and that's my day that I come on live and do one of my recipes. And today I am doing a recipe that I have actually done before, but I didn't put out the recipe for it. And I actually think of my friend Janet every time I make this because my friend Janet loves salmon. And today I am making salmon in a roasted red pepper sauce. One of the things I love about doing seafood for dinner during the week is because it cooks so quickly. And this is no exception to that. There's not a lot of steps. This comes together pretty quickly. In fact, I was looking over the ingredient list, and not only is it not extensive, there's only two things that require like chopping. So I'm going to go over the ingredient list really quick. It will be in the comments section when the video downloads. The caption will have the full recipe in there, and you can also find it on my YouTube channel at Debbie Meighan Real Estate. There's a playlist for Dinner with Debbie videos, and the recipes will be there as well. So we are starting with, well, let me just go over like the prep time, very minimal, 5-10 minutes. Overall cook time, maybe 20 to 30 minutes, depending on how quickly you can work. And this recipe is for 2 servings, which is perfect for my family since I'm only cooking for Mark and myself. And it's actually also kind of on the lower calorie end of it. The salmon with roasted red peppers is about 525 calories per person. If you use more salmon, it's probably a little bit more, and I usually serve mine over rice, and that will add some calories, but you can do it over steamed vegetables if you want to get, fewer calories in there. So I'm going to start off with, I have 2 salmon fillets. I bought them individually. These are with the skin on, and there's salt and pepper. There's a little bit of olive oil. I like to use this brand. This is California Olive Ranch. I find this to be a very flavorful olive oil, and just a really good tasting. If you want good food, you have to have good ingredients, and you need a good olive oil, and I really like this brand. There's also some butter in here. I saved a little bit of time by using the minced garlic, so I don't have to chop up a bunch of garlic and get my fingers all smelly. I also had a can of, or a jar of marinated roasted red peppers, and that is really the way to go about it. Sometimes you can find them already sliced. I had whole ones, and I've diced them. This is about 4 ounces, or about half of a jar of roasted red peppers. And when you buy them jarred like that, they're already roasted, they're already peeled, and it just makes it so much easier. So, and I've already diced these. We're going to also use 4 cups of baby spinach, which sounds like a lot. It's a whole container of, this is a 5-ounce container of baby spinach, and it seems like a lot, but as you know, when you cook spinach, it really kind of like melts down, and so it doesn't have a lot of volume to it. We've got a half of cup of heavy cream, or half and half. That's where the calories come in, but it's only a half a cup for 2 people. And then we have about a 1/4 cup of grated Parmesan. I already have this in the little cup here. We've got some red pepper flakes, and I've chopped up about a 1/4 cup. This is probably a little bit more than a 1/4 cup of Italian flat leaf parsley. And I just roughly eyeball this. I just grab a bunch of parsley. I take basically a half of the bunch and chop this up, and that's what I use. So to get to work right away here, I'm going to take the salmon fillets, and I'm going to take them out of the plastic, obviously. I'm actually going to leave, the skin side is down on these, so it makes it easy, and I'm just going to salt and pepper these guys. Oops, let me take the plastic off. I didn't want to take the plastic off before because, it does kind of smell. It smells a little fishy. Now, sometimes these are the belly cuts at At Wegmans, you can get different cuts of the salmon fillet. I like to get the loin a lot. They're thicker. They take a little bit longer to cook, but you know, it gives you a little bit more. They didn't have them, so I went and got the belly cuts. So you can see here they are. This is one, and these aren't hugely thick, so they're going to really cook up pretty quickly. So I'm going to take a pinch of salt these bad boys. And then I'm even going the easy route and just going with the ground black pepper right out of the thing. And just going to do a little pepper on them. And then I am using a cast iron skillet. This is the first time I'm using this. I just got this cast iron skillet. It's a good 12-inch size, so it's big. And what I like about cast iron skillets is that they're naturally non-stick if you take care of them. And I'm just going to talk a little bit about, I'm turning the heat on to get this started. And I'll put some I'm going to put about a tablespoon of olive oil in here over medium heat. It's like once around the pan. And while that heats up, I'm going to talk a little bit about cast iron skillets. If you have not used a cast iron skillet before, I really recommend it. Because for one thing, I mean, definitely use a pot holder because the whole thing is metal and you'll burn the crap out of your hand when you grab the handle. But they're naturally non-stick, and if you take good care of them, they'll last forever. So, and the way to take good care of them is to continually season them. And by doing that, you wash them and kind of just like dishwashing detergent and water, dry it completely, and then just coat it with just a little bit of like a vegetable oil or canola oil. And I just take a paper towel and I just kind of wipe it around. And just by doing that, it's very easy to take care of. And every time you use it, it gets a little bit more nonstick. And it's actually a great way. It's a great pan to make steaks in. You really get a good crust on them. I'm grabbing a pot holder. That was like the one thing I forgot to bring over here. So I have my pot holder here. Hey, John, how are you? Hey, Judy. I know, yum. It really is yum. You're going to want to make this. So let me just swirl this a little bit. And I'm going to turn the heat down a little bit so I don't burn it. So now that the oil is heated on here, I'm going to take these salmon fillets and I'm going to put them flesh side down, flesh side down in the pan. Yeah. And they are sizzling a little bit. I'm not sure if you can hear that. So the skin side is up. You see that. Skin side up. And it will not take long, trust me. Because for one thing, these are not that thick. Oops, are you guys still there? So it helps if you have a larger spatula to flip these. But I'm just keeping an eye on these while I'm talking. So everybody always wants to know what I'm drinking when I'm cooking. And of course, I always like to drink when I'm cooking. I always like to drink wine while I'm cooking. And today, I decided because we're having salmon and it's kind of a creamier sauce, I decided to go with a French Burgundy white wine. This is a Polini Montrachet Chardonnay. It's from the Burgundy region of France. And I think the kind of creaminess of the Chardonnay will match very well with the creaminess of the sauce. And here, I'll just have a sip. And this particular one, I actually like quite a bit. It was only like $30 a bottle because I bought like a few. And I got it from an online vendor out of Western Virginia. And I've had good luck with this vendor. I think they're called Timeless Wine. And they have they'll get in some good deals. So I'm just taking a quick look at these guys. I can see that the edges are starting to get lighter in color. And one of the reasons that I decided to try this in the cast iron skillet is to see if maybe it would really be a lot less nonstick than my quote-unquote nonstick skillet. So we shall see, right? Oh, so here's like the true test is going to be when I try to flip it and if it all sticks to the pan. I wish you guys could smell this because it really smells good. Now that I have the skin side, I'm going to salt and pepper this side. And I don't go crazy with the salt. If you guys really like to season, you can put more salt. But Mark is a little sensitive to salt. I can put as much pepper as I want, but the salt he's a little bit sensitive to, so I don't like to put too much salt because otherwise I'll hear about it later. So I'm going to try to see if I can flip this and how much sticks to the pan. Yeah, not too bad. All right, now this one's the bigger one. See if I can flip this one without leaving a mess. All right, that actually turned out pretty well. See? I think the cast iron made a difference. If you have a really good quality non-stick pan, maybe this will work for you as well. Let's see. So this is going to cook on this side now, and I'm going to get out a plate for it because after this has cooked on this side, we're going to take the salmon out of the pan and put it on a plate, and then we are going to do our sauce. And you'll see once that, it's really going to come together really quickly. Just keep an eye on this. So one of the things I end up doing with this is that I don't usually end up keeping them as fillets. Once it comes, because once we'll take it out, we'll make the sauce, and then we're going to put the salmon back in to heat it back up. And then I usually break it up into large chunks. Not only will that complete cooking it, but it actually is easier to serve that way, I think. And also wanted to tell you, so I was saying that I am serving this over rice, and I have found this new product at Meighan's, again, my favorite store, that I had not seen before. Maybe you've seen it. It's in the Indian food aisle. This is VT brand steam filtered basmati rice, and they also have a jasmine rice version. So this is already cooked rice, and I am a terrible rice maker. It always comes out clumpy and it sticks together and it tastes terrible. So what I have here is already cooked and it's steamed, and all I have to do is poke some holes in it and put it in the microwave for like 2 minutes, lift up the film, fluff it up, and it's ready to go, and it's delicious. It really is good. So I highly recommend giving this a try. This in this container is 2 servings, and it's probably a little bit more than 2 servings for us because we don't do a ton of rice. But I thought I would share that little tip with you. All right, I think these fillets are ready to come off onto a plate. Well, that kind of fell off my spatula. So this is probably the other reason why I like to break it up, is because it kind of falls apart a little bit when I take it out. So you can see it there. I'm going to set this aside. I'm going to turn, it just got splattered. And I do have a little bit of the skin on the pan here, so I'm going to scrape that up. and get rid of that. I'm going to put that on the pan too so that I don't have it in my sauce. There. Phew, that is hot. All right, so to the same pan, I'm going to add a tablespoon of butter. Yeah. Whoops, that was wrapped up. But I just kept it in the fridge because I didn't want it to get all melty before I came in. So I've got a tablespoon of butter. I'm putting that in the pan. And I'm also going to stick the garlic in here. So 3 cloves of minced garlic. And if you're using the jarred minced garlic like I am to save time and for the convenience, that's about 3 tablespoons of jarred minced garlic. And you don't want that to go too long, only a few seconds, otherwise it'll burn and get bitter. Now we're going to add our roasted peppers. Hey, Nikki. Oops. Our roasted red peppers have gone in there. Oh, Nikki, you're cooking salmon tonight too? I know. I love salmon. It's good for you. It's got those good fats in them. And I was going to share this later. I got my blood work done at a physical, and I've got a little bit high cholesterol, so I'm going to be starting to do a little bit more Mediterranean diet stuff. So, all right, my red peppers are in there. We're just going to let that cook up a little bit, maybe a minute or two. Oops, I missed one. And then to that, I'm going to add my container of baby spinach. So as you see, you know, it looks like a lot. I'm going to put it in here and you can see, I'll show you how much it like kind of goes down in volume. So here's my pan, and I'm just going to work this around. It's going to make a little bit of a mess until it starts to cook down. And it wilts pretty quickly. What I love also about this dish is just how pretty the colors are. The red peppers against the green spinach and then the pink salmon. It's just a really inviting dish to look at and eat. You can see that the spinach is already probably at least half of the volume that it was as it wilts and cooks. And I'm just going to try to flip this around so the red peppers kind of in the oil and the butter and the garlic all get mixed in. So this really smells good now. So I had one little leaf of spinach that was an escapee. I'm going to stick that in there. All right, so this is really looking good and smells delicious. Oh, so you're making your salmon in a salad. Awesome. Well, next time, Nikki, next time you come over here and we'll cook it together. That's what we'll do. So. So that is all looking really good. We've allowed it to wilt, so now I'm going to reduce the heat to low. And I'm going to add my half a cup. Hey Lee, how are you? It's good to see you. Good to see you. So I've added my half a cup of cream. It's either half and half or heavy cream or, you know, or milk. If you really want to, I think it's probably better to use a dairy product with some fat in it as opposed to like a skim milk or zero fat, just because it just won't have the same effect. But if you really are watching your calories, you can probably do a skim milk. It just won't taste quite as good. All right, so we've got that in. Now I want to put in my red pepper flakes. This is about 1/4 teaspoon, and I'm going to tell you a secret. I always put in more than what the recipe calls for, because for one thing, it's dried. The other thing I do with any kind of dried spice, whether it's a red pepper flake or any kind of dried seasoning, is I always kind of rub it in my fingers as I'm putting it in the pan to kind of wake up the flavors. And since I like things a little bit spicy, I don't mind it having a little bit of extra red pepper flakes in there. So that's about 1/4 teaspoon of that. I'm also going to add my chopped up parsley from earlier. And a little salt and pepper. And again, I'm not measuring because that's how I roll. It's really pretty hard to mess up, to be honest with you. All right, so now I'm going to give this a stir. Let me show you what it looks like now. That is our yummy sauce. All right, and this is now, as you can see, at a pretty good little simmer. And now what I'm going to do is just return the salmon to this and heat it up and heat it through. Just make sure that it's warm again. So this is where I usually take the salmon off of the skin, because I'm not a big salmon skin eater, if I'm going to be perfectly honest with you. I don't need to eat that. I'm going to pick up this piece and just take the salmon off of the skin and put it in there. This is where I just find it easier to have the salmon in chunks rather than a whole fillet. So the other great thing about this recipe is that it's gluten-free. Now, some people might serve this over pasta, and if you wanted to keep it gluten-free, obviously you'd have to do a gluten-free pasta or do it over the rice like I do. All right, so I got all these pans in here. I've got my salmon back in the pan. I'm just going to wipe my hands off, and I want you to see what this looks like. So I've got my pieces of salmon in here. You can see. So I'm actually just going to let this cook just a little bit more and get the salmon. Some of the thicker pieces of salmon aren't done as well as I would like, so I'm going to let them cook a little bit. And that is it, folks. That is it. That is how you make this meal. It is done. So really healthy, pretty quick, only 2 things to chop. It really can't get any easier than that. And like I said, my friend Janet, her favorite thing to eat is salmon. So I kind of, even though I called the recipe is called salmon with roasted red pepper sauce, I actually call this Janet salmon. So Janet, I hope you're watching this, if not now, a little bit later, because I know you want the recipe. So again, for the recipe, the full recipe with the list of ingredients and the source where I got it from, I actually found this recipe on Pinterest from a website called Cooktoria. I've made it a number of times. I hope you give it a try at home. And to find the full recipe with the ingredients, you'll find that when I download this live video it'll go onto my YouTube channel, and it'll also be shared throughout my other social media channels on Instagram and Facebook. So if you're looking for the recipe, just watch for the downloaded version of the video tomorrow, and it'll have all the ingredients and the steps. So I hope you guys have a great night, and I will see you next week.